Today is September 8th, 2024, and welcome to the 405th episode of the So Video Games podcast. Here in the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of this show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review we publish. Hello! Thanks for joining me today. If you are a regular listener, you're probably a little bit caught off guard because this episode is coming pretty hot on the heels of the last episode, but that's okay. Episode 404 came in pretty late. I think that's probably the latest I've been in a while, and I kind of pride myself on being on time with these things. And regularity is very important as you age gracefully. So I wanted to get back on track, and you might remember if you caught the last episode that I said I was going to be doing something a little bit different this time around. That is true. Normally I cover a whole slew of games, 4, 5, 6 games per episode plus other stuff. But this week, for episode 405, the one you're listening to right now, I put that on pause just for a moment. I actually got pretty busy last week doing a lot of real-life stuff, just for some background information. I do edit GameCritics.com. I also do this podcast. But I do a lot of other stuff, too, that is not games-related. And I had a pretty big project come across my desk. Pretty exciting stuff, actually. Well, I guess I can't say that. A lot of the stuff is under embargo, and it's not video game embargo. It's like other embargo, like big time embargo. So I can't say anything now. I would be happy to share the details later once things are out and about and revealed. But suffice it to say, it was a pretty big project and a kind of a neat, important thing that I think is important anyway. And so I'll be talking more about it. But it ate up so much of my time last week that I just really needed to just kind of put a pin in games for a second to get this thing delivered on time. So we did get it delivered on time. There's another part to it coming up, so I'll deal with that as it comes. But the fallout of this project was I had basically no time to play any new games. I didn't have the usual time that I would use to cover brand new games or to talk about industry stuff or whatever. And so I think for this particular episode, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of housekeeping as per usual. And then instead of doing any of the usual games that I normally would cover, I'm going to be doing just Q&A. I had some people send in some really good questions last week that I didn't have time to get to. So I thought, I'm just going to hang on to these. I'm going to answer all those questions this week. I actually got a couple more questions on top of that. So the bulk of the show is going to be Q&A. Almost all of it has to do with video games, so it's not just like a totally random show. But there may be a few divergences or tangents here and there. And then when I get done with that Q&A section, I might talk about some TV or movies, and then I'll just bounce. That'll be a good show. I can put one more in the can, get this show back on track as far as schedule goes. And then next week for episode 406, you can look forward to a pretty big slate of games. I don't usually like to talk about games before I have the time to cover them, but I feel like I kind of owe it to the listeners just to let you guys know that I haven't just quit games or something like that. So for next week, episode 406, my tentative schedule, and this is subject to change, but my tentative schedule will be Closer the Distance, Space Marine 2, Peglin, and Caravan Sandwich. So that's what I've got slated for next week, in addition to anything else that pops up. But for this week, it's got to be just Q&A and a little bit of movie talk and a little bit of housekeeping. So I say, with no further ado, let's get right to it. All right. As per usual, like I mentioned, we're going to kick things off with housekeeping here, where I talk about tidbits, news items, industry happenings, and basically anything randomly game adjacent that has caught my eye in the last 7 days. Just got a couple things here. First up, circling back on Helldivers 2, even though this is not an official circle back. They have said, and they being the developers, have said that they have heard the voluminous feedback on the game. A lot of people are very unhappy with a lot of the changes, bugs, nerfs, weird priorities that the developers, Arrowhead Studios, have had with Helldivers 2. Started off with a boom, got mega popular, and then they just seem to be making mistake after mistake after mistake. It's like someone tied their shoelaces together and then told them to run a marathon, and they just haven't untied their shoes yet. So the developers came through and said that they've heard the feedback and said that they're going to take action. They want to get all the players back. They want to deliver on their promises. They want to find the fun again, apparently. So there's supposed to be a pretty huge patch coming on September 17th that is allegedly going to be addressing a lot of the problems players have. They're supposed to be reducing the armor of a lot of the enemies that have way too much armor. They're going to be reducing the amount of projectiles certain enemies can shoot. They're going to be fixing some of the enemy situations where they were becoming like invulnerable or where they were taking action that seemed like it was impossible. They're going to be reducing the ragdolling that's currently happening in the game, which is, oh geez, it's a lot. Stuff like that. They're improving some of the guns. They say they're going to dial back on some of the challenge, some of the spawn routines that they've got in the game, which currently are like absurd. So they just, in general, seem to have been cranking the game harder and harder and harder and harder, despite that not really being what the players want and not really listening to the players. I'm not sure what target they had in mind, but they were dead set on heading towards that target, and everybody was kind of falling off the game. So I am happy to hear that they are going to be trying to turn this around. I put like at least 200 hours into Helldivers 2 earlier this year. Had a great time with it. Rocky start, but it got good pretty quickly. But then after a while, just like everyone else, I started feeling the effects of these weird developer changes and just have been not happy with it. And in fact, when I saw this patch news article drop, I was like, oh, snap. I kind of forgot Helldivers 2 even existed. I haven't touched it in a couple weeks. So I went back yesterday just to see what the state of the game, and it is a shambles right now. Spawn rates are out of control. Stuff is bouncing all over the place. Like a lot of bugs happened. We had some objectives that spawned underneath the ground where you can't get to it. We had players falling beneath the ground where they couldn't escape. And they weren't supposed to be under the ground. They're supposed to be above the ground. All sorts of weirdness happening. It was kind of a shambles. So I don't know what's going on over at Helldivers 2 headquarters, but I really genuinely, sincerely hope that this big patch coming on September 17th is going to be like at least a step in the right direction. I would really love for them to get this game back under control and back on track. There's still so much content that they could do. There's still so many things they could make happen here in the game. We don't even have vehicles yet. There's a whole third faction which hasn't shown up yet. There's all sorts of like different mission types we don't have yet. And if you just look at the original Helldivers, there's so much stuff in that game that hasn't made it over to Helldivers 2. Not even to mention, any of the brand new things they could be doing. So I feel like the game is nowhere near being toasted. They really need to get back on track with the problems they've been having. And honestly, I mean, I know how this sounds, and I don't mean to be like angry video game nerd or anything, but sometimes I really do think that the developers do need to listen to the fans. Not always, and not about everything. I mean, this isn't like a Mass Effect 3, we demand you change the ending situation. But if people are saying, hey, there's like 50 guns in the game and we only use the top 3 because the other 47 are trash, maybe look at that. If everybody brings the same support weapon because the other 12 are garbage, maybe look at that. If people are saying that the enemies are impossible and that, there's way too many enemies on screen and people can't even get the game completed, maybe take a look at that. I mean, I get that gamers can be sometimes demanding and whiny, but they're not always wrong. And if these are your hardcore players who are giving you this feedback, you better fucking listen to them. So, I don't have any statistics, but I know that the concurrently playing has like nosedived in the last month or two. It was up. It was consistently one of the top games after launch, and now it's a shadow of its former self. So hopefully they'll get that turned back around. I would love to come back to a Helldivers that is just really fun and enjoyable and has lots of exciting stuff. It's just, it's just kind of a wreck right now. So Arrowhead, I'm pulling for you. Fingers crossed, toes crossed. Get this patch dropped. Hope it fixes things. And let's just get this fun train rolling again. Next up, Minecraft, the movie. Have y'all seen this trailer? I knew they were making a movie. And I didn't have any details about it whatsoever because that was also something that was under embargo. They just dropped the trailer a little while ago. And was anybody expecting what it actually looks like? Oh my God. Folks, if you haven't seen the Minecraft trailer, please pause the podcast, go to YouTube, check it out. Just put in Minecraft trailer. I guarantee it'll be the first thing that comes up. And just watch it. It's like 90 seconds. And wow. I saw it and I was like, I can't even believe what I'm looking at right now. So for people who haven't seen it, and if you didn't pause to go watch it now. But if you didn't, I'll tell you. So as you might expect, the Minecraft world obviously skewed towards kids, and the world itself blocky, forest and grass and blocky animals and everything. It looks just like Minecraft, just with not as sharp of edges. I mean, everything is still blocky, but like softer edges, better textures, better graphics. Like it just looks more, I dare I say realistic. I don't know if I do dare say realistic, but it doesn't look as pixely and blocky as the actual game does. But then there's actual people in it, like live actors. I thought this was going to be a purely CG movie. No. there's actors in it, and Steve, the main character of Minecraft, I guess probably some people don't know that, but the main character, the guy that has a blue shirt, he does have a name. His name is Steve, and he is played by Jack Black. And I was like, what's going on here? Jack Black with a full beard, and he's just like a real ass person in this Minecraft world. Jason Momoa shows up, and I don't even know who he's supposed to be. He's got like a jacket and this weird hair going on. A couple other actors, which I recognize, but I don't know their names. I apologize to those actors. But so it's real people in Minecraft land. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't even know what the plot's about. But just watching the trailer was enough to knock me on my ass for a second and just go, wow, that is a thing that someone greenlit and people are making money on. So, okay. Anyway, check out that trailer if you haven't seen it. It is something else, folks. Speaking of movies, not really movie trailers, but movies in general, just a quick heads up on the Masters of the Universe movie. Now, this is not necessarily video game related, although there is an indie video game kicking around, which looks kind of badass. But no, this is just action figure related because you know me. I love my toys, love my action figures. I'm a child of the 80s. You get that. And so He-Man is something that is very near and dear to my heart. They just announced another actor has been cast. Now, the film is not due to hit until 2026, which seems like far away, but actually we're almost at 2025. Give them a year to film, do CG, do all that stuff. I mean, I'm really hoping it makes it on 2026, but we've heard rumors of a Masters of the Universe movie many times before, and it seems like it gets off the ground and then it stops and it stalls out and then it just gets delayed. So I'm hoping that this isn't the latest like one of those. I don't need another tease. I don't need some more false hopes, but it does seem like this is actually moving forward. So they have cast a couple actors already. So already announced was Nicholas Galitzine, Galitzine. I'm not familiar with him, but he's been cast as He-Man. So I don't know anything about Nicholas. I'm sure he's a fine actor, but just from the few pictures I've seen, he does not look like what I would envision as He-Man. And now I get it. You can't just pick some bodybuilder and then stick a wig on him and expect him to act well. You got to have an actor first and foremost. I get that, and I agree with that. So I'm guessing he's going to play like Prince Adam. I mean, I'm assuming everybody listening to this podcast knows about He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. If you don't, it's too much to go into now. But basically, He-Man, big buff guy. His alter ego is a less buff teenage version of himself in most of the movies and cartoons and series. So he kind of goes from being a teen kid to being like a big buff guy with a sword. So he looks like, he could be a non-buff Prince Adam. That, he looks like he'd fit that. But I'm wondering if they're going to do like Hulk CG for when he turns into He-Man, or maybe something they did with like Captain America in the Marvel movie where whatever that guy's name is, the actor who plays Captain America, maybe he had like the weak body before he became Captain America, so they CG'd in a weird body for him. Maybe they're going to do that with this guy. They're going to CG in like a big buff body on top of his normal face. Who knows? I don't know. So that's kind of weird. But that is not the new information. No. And also not new information is that they have cast actress Camila Mendez as Tila, who is Captain of the Guard, He-Man's sometimes love interest, sometimes good friend. Also not who I would have envisioned for Tila, but I mean, probably fine actress, and I'm sure she's going to do a great job. But the new casting, the brand new reason I'm bringing this up, is they have cast Alison Brie from Community and a wealth of other shows as Evelyn, the sorceress who is like Skeletor's second in command. Again, I keep saying this. I'm a total broken record. I would never have imagined Alison Brie as Evelyn in any way, shape, or form. But I know she's a good actress. I like her. I mean, she was funny in Community. I've seen her in a few other things. She's always great. So I think she does a great job. But if you asked me to pick like 3 actresses who could be Evelyn, I don't think she would be in the top 3. I don't think she'd even be in the top 10. So that's not a slam against her. It's probably just my lack of imagination. But I am happy to see that there's more casting announcements made. These are all legit actors. These are like real people. It seems like this thing is moving forward. And I will say that the director, I forget his name right now, but the director of this upcoming He-Man movie is the same guy who directed Transformers Bumblebee. Now, I don't know if you've seen Bumblebee, but that actually was where the franchise turned around. It was actually quite good. Quick tangent. The very first Transformers movie with Michael Bay was actually not too bad. They went through 2, 3, 4, maybe like 4 sequels, 4 sequels after that. They were all garbage. Michael Bay doing Michael Bay, not fully understanding the Transformers franchise, too long, too bombastic, just weird designs, just boring action, just really tedious to get through. And then Bumblebee came out with a brand new director, first time for the brand new director in that particular film series. And it was good again. It was fun. It was relatable. It was quick. It was peppy. It had like the spirit of Transformers back in it. And I'm very confident and very pleased that the director who was able to turn Transformers around is at the helm of He-Man. So I feel like I couldn't ask for a better director, and I'm very curious to see who else they're going to cast and like even what the story is going to be about. There's many different iterations of He-Man, originally launching as a toy line in the United States in 1983/84. Went on to have a Filmation cartoon, which was very successful. It's now in the middle of a He-Man renaissance where we have multiple action figure lines and all sorts of new cartoons coming out. But over its history, at least three or four, maybe five different cartoon series, and they all have slightly different versions. Not even mentioning the Dolph Lundgren live action film, which was actually not too bad. So I guess I just don't know what they're shooting for. Is it the cartoony side? Is it the serious side? Is it the sci-fi side? Who knows? But I am curious to see, and I'm very much looking forward to this thing actually coming out, and I will update y'all as necessary. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. Before I get to the main portion of the show, just a quick reminder that you can help support this very podcast by going to patreon.com/the So Video Games Podcast. Every little bit helps with the cost of hosting and such. And of course, a huge, huge thanks to everybody who supports the show already, because they are putting their money where their ears is. And I thank you. Also, heads up, there is a So Video Games Discord, which any listener is welcome to join free of charge. If you want to join up and continue the conversation after the show, just shoot me an email and I will send you the details. And for people who have not joined Discord yet, I keep getting these messages from folks, and I want to just let you all know. Number one, totally fine if you don't know what Discord is. Not everybody's on it. It's not a problem whatsoever. Zero shame. Zero shame. So if you join the So Video Games Discord, it's basically just like a text chat room. We don't do any live events. We don't do any voice. You just pop in. There's a couple different categories. There's like a PlayStation channel, Nintendo channel, Microsoft channel, general channel, like other stuff. You just talk about whatever you want to talk about. Post a text message, and then someone will reply to you if they feel like it. You just kind of talk back and forth, just like a basic chat room. And I guarantee you, if you want to get a message to me, you want to talk to me directly, that's a very good way of doing it. I check the Discord every single day. I respond to people in that in those channels. So if you got something to say, you got some feedback on the show, you got an idea for the show, questions, comments, anything like that, or you just want to shoot the shit, that is a wonderful way to do it, and it's absolutely free of charge. So if you're interested, shoot me an email and I will hook you up ASAP. It's a private server, so you have to be invited. I don't just open it up to anybody. So it's only cool people in there. There's no trolls. There's no madness. There's nothing like that. So it's all good folks. All right, I think that is enough preamble. Let us get to the main portion of the show, which this episode is all Q&A. Okay, first question comes from Elijah. He writes at Game Critics. He's also in the Discord, So Video Games Discord. Good guy, good writer himself. So he says, or he asks specifically, what aspect of game quality do you feel goes underrepresented in critiques and reviews? Okay, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked that, and it's a couple of things. For me, I think honestly, and these are kind of interrelated, but give me a minute to kind of make the point, okay? So first, I think tutorials are really underrepresented in critiques and reviews. I know that tutorials are usually at the start of the game. It's not something that carries all the way through, but it also ties into the second thing that I want to bring up, which is communication, both in terms of the writing, like what characters say and all that stuff, but also how do you communicate the ideas? How does a game developer communicate what's in their game, how they want their game to be perceived and absorbed by players? And I'll tell you why I think that these two things are related, because I've seen so many times when a developer will make a game, they've got, mechanics, they've got story, they've got quests and all this stuff, and then they just completely fumble the introduction and the tutorial. So they've got a lot of stuff. I mean, they might be very good at doing what they're doing. Maybe they're good at programming or they're great at art or whatever. But when it comes to explaining their vision that's inside their head to somebody who is brand new, somebody who's not a friend of the dev team, somebody who has not beta tested, somebody who is just like buying their game for the first time on the eShop or on PlayStation or whatever, how do you communicate those ideas to your player? Now, that goes for the whole game, right? But it's also very concentrated in the tutorial level, because it really quickly shows who can understand how to look outside themselves about a mechanic and explain it. So whenever I see a poor mechanical tutorial, I always think like, oh geez, okay, am I in for this for the rest of the game? Because if you can't explain to me in good logical order how your game works, what I'm supposed to do, what is my relationship to the game, what am I supposed to leverage, what am I supposed to be aware of, what am I looking for, set some parameters for me, because games can be anything, right? Games can be like, whatever, sky's the limit. It just depends on what the developer's imagination is. We can be literally doing anything. So however you communicate that to me, if you're not able to communicate that to me, then I kind of get scared, because I feel like for the rest of the game, I'm going to be hit with mechanics, quests, ideas, things that are not properly explained as well, which always leads to kind of frustration. It leads to me going to YouTube to look for answers. It just, I like a smooth, well-polished experience. And by that, I don't mean AAA production values, not at all. But I do want somebody to understand what it's like to not be them. I want a developer who gets that there are two kinds of people in the world. It is themselves, the developer, and then there's everybody else, right? And it's weird to me that so often I meet developers, or I play product from developers who don't seem to understand that there are other people in the world besides themselves. And I know that may sound a little harsh and rude. I don't mean it to be. But when I play a game and like people do not properly explain a mechanic, they do not explain what stats mean, they do not explain what a system does, they do not explain what a power does, it's like, you knew what this did because you created it, but you did not explain it to me. Therefore, you seem incapable of being able to explain that concept to somebody who is not you. And sometimes I'll get the answer of like, well, they want you to experiment and find out for yourselves. I mean, okay, maybe. But you have to be pretty intentional about that. And sometimes you don't want the player like experimenting on everything. I mean, and if you're the kind of developer who's like, no, I don't explain anything. I craft my vision and I deliver it to the public, and the public is free to, interact with it or interface with it, or they're not. I mean, okay, cool. Then your game is probably not for me. I don't historically do well with those kinds of games. And that's a me issue. That's fine too. If you're a player who loves no tutorial, no info, no hand holding, you want to just dive into a thing and just figure it all out for yourself, that's cool. Like that's, no skin off my nose. But for me, I feel like a really great experience doesn't usually take that form. There's some kind of hand-holding, some kind of signposting, some kind of explanation where the ideas and concepts and themes are communicated to the player. Not necessarily that they need to be all like laid out, but like, get them to us in a way that makes sense. Maybe there's a gameplay tutorial where you're actually doing something and you learn along the way. Or maybe there's proper signposting in the environment that really kind of shows how the developer is thinking. How am I supposed to navigate these worlds? What am I supposed to be looking for? So I think that particular aspect is very often overlooked. And I think, honestly, all too often, people get a pass when that stuff doesn't clear the bar, right? If there's a shitty tutorial, if there's a mechanic you didn't figure out until 10 hours after you started playing the game, if there's something you've been playing a game for like 30 hours and you still just don't understand this one aspect of it, or if there's some kind of, you didn't get the best ending because you didn't realize this thing you were supposed to do 10 hours ago or something like that, that's a fail. That's a fail. Like, I don't tend to see video games as a challenge, a mental challenge between the developer and the player. And if the player figures it out, then they win. And if the player doesn't figure it out, then the developer wins. That's not a healthy mechanic. And I'm not saying anybody overtly says that, but sometimes that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like a mental challenge. Like sometimes a developer's throwing the gauntlet down at me and is like, are you smart enough to figure this out? This thing that I imagined and created and did all by myself. Can you figure it out? Can you get inside my brainwave? And sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes I'm just not on the same mental brainwave as another person. So I think for me, that's something that I would like to see criticism and reviews take more into account. Not just the tutorial, which I think is absolutely really crucial, but also how that communication, that level of transparency, that level of letting people in on the vision, that level of teaching people to play your game, that level of crafting experiences which are accessible to people whose brains do not exactly match that of the developer. I think that's really important. And it's a skill. It is absolutely a skill. Some people are naturals, just like some people are naturals at anything. But also, it's not something that you just happen upon. Like, you have to think about it. You have to do focus testing. You have to run your game by various different types of people because everybody's got a different thought pattern. Everybody's got a different brain. For example, I've been married to my wife, Gina, for 19 years now, 20 years next year. And I know for a fact that our brains work differently. And that's just something, neither one of us is right or wrong. Neither one of us needs to be fixed or anything. I just know for a fact our brains don't work exactly the same way. And it's not some kind of dumb Mars, Venus, male, female bullshit. It's just that we just think of things differently, right? So, like, for example, I remember this clearly. One of the very first times I really, grokked this was when we first got together and we were playing Tetris. Now, she's always been a game player, so that was, one of the good things about hooking up with her. And so we were playing Tetris one day, And I was playing and I was dropping blocks just like I normally do. And I feel like I'm a pretty good Tetris player. Not, I'm not amazing or anything, but I can certainly hold my own. And she would be like, "Oh, this one goes there." And I'm like, "What?" And no, what? And she would be like, "No, no, over here." And I'm like, "No." And so, that kind of happened. And then we switched the controller and I would watch where she was putting blocks. And like literally she was not putting blocks where I would put blocks. And she's also a good Tetris player as well. Like neither one of us is terrible. We're both pretty good. But the way that she mentally ordered things was different than the way that I mentally ordered things. And I'm like, holy shit, like you're processing this completely differently than I am, even though you're still getting a successful result. Same thing for, driving. Driving is like a big one in our family. Driving, me and my wife were both freelancers for most of our careers. And that included a lot of driving, tons of driving when you're a freelancer in our line of work, sign language interpreting. Drive fucking all the time. And so I very quickly learned that the way that I perceive landmarks and the order in which I take roads and the routes that made sense to me were 100% not what made sense to her. And not like either one of us was wrong. We would both get to where we needed to go. Like if we were both going to a job, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I'll meet you there." And she'd be like, "Okay." But I'm not going to follow you and don't follow me because I know that like the road that you're going to take doesn't make sense to me and I don't like your way. And I know that you don't like my way. So don't follow me either. But we both get there and we both would do the job and meet up. But like stuff like that, where it's like, I'm very keenly aware that neither one of us has any kind of like mental impairment. We're just different processors. And that holds true for everybody else on the planet, right? Like no two people think exactly alike. And so it's a real skill to be able to take a piece of art like a game, especially interactive art that somebody is supposed to do something with, and then be able to communicate to them, "Hey, this is what this is about. This is what you're doing. This is what I want you to do. These are my ideas. I want you to interact with it this way." Now that's helped somewhat by having established genres, right? Like you put out a first person shooter. Most people who play games have seen one of those before. They generally know what to do with those, but there's always little details that you have to be mindful of. And there's always little things you have to be careful of about, maybe you're doing your ammo different. Maybe you're doing your armor penetration different. Maybe you're doing your level design different. Maybe you have a bunch of keys like in Doom. Maybe you have no keys. Maybe it's just like a linear experience. Maybe it's like an open world kind of experience. Who knows? So being able to take a vision and communicate that to all of the different thought patterns and behaviors and ideas and personalities out in the world is absolutely a skill. And I really appreciate games that do it well. And I pick up on it right away because you can notice that you're in for a friction-free experience sometimes. And when that applies to most people, when most people don't have a problem with certain things, that's great. But it's always funny to me too. You can always tell when there is a problem because, I'll be playing a game or something and I'll get to some puzzle that just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. And then I go to type in, let's say for example, it's Tomb Raider. It's not really Tomb Raider, but just as an example, I'll be like, "Oh, this fucking level in Tomb Raider." And I go to Google and I go, Tomb Raider puzzle. And like before I even type out puzzle, it'll autofill with like the exact thing that I'm stuck on, right? Which means that the developers probably didn't make this puzzle as intuitive as they thought it was, or maybe it doesn't make sense to a certain type of brain. And so everybody with my type of brain is also stuck in the same way. So you can really clearly pick up on things like that when you're looking for it. So Elijah, good question. I think that to me is the thing that I think is underrepresented in critiques and reviews. I think we need more praise for developers who do it great. I think we need to call developers out who don't do it great. I think we need to stop giving a pass to people who don't really do a good job on that. I think it's just as valid, just as important as any other kind of game developing, and we just don't pay enough attention to it. So there you go. There's that. Next question from Elijah. What do you think it'll take for people to understand the differences between an op-ed, a feature, and a review? That's an easy one to answer. They will never understand the difference. No one will know. We've been doing criticism, writing, reviews, articles, op-ed, blogs, anything, previews at Game Critics for, it'll be 26 years next year, 26 years on the web. And in all that time, everybody thinks everything's a review. And that's the majority of people. I don't know what it is, but people's literacy is down. Their comprehension for reading is down. Their grasp of different types of journalism is down. People just don't get it. So I feel like if you don't get it by now, you don't get it. And if you do get it, you already do get it and you're fine. Kind of like if you know, you know. So I think that the people like yourself who understand the difference between those things, you just know because you're just like, you're functioning on that level. And if you're a person who doesn't get it by now, number one, you're probably not listening to this podcast. And number two, you're probably not going to get it. So I guess not to be so dismissive and brutal, but like, dude, after doing this for almost 26 years, that's my takeaway, is that people just don't get the difference. And despite how many times over the years I have responded to somebody say, hey, this blog post is not a review, or hey, this review is a blog post, or this is an opinion piece, this is not an official take on something, or hey, there's no score attached to this, or there is a score, or like whatever. Of all the times I've had the discussion with people over the years, it's always the same discussion. People don't get it. They don't read thoroughly enough. They don't comprehend thoroughly enough. Is it the American school system? I don't know. Is it something about life these days? We're all just too busy. Nobody reads anything for reals anymore. I don't know. Maybe only certain people really even give a shit enough about written articles these days so that most people just don't even care in the first place. Who knows? I don't know. But I feel like, I mean, not to be like the bitter, jaded, burned out dude, but a little bit kind of after 26 years at Game Critics, I feel like if you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't know. And honestly, I'm not going to explain it to anybody anymore. So I guess there you go. Take that for what it's worth. All right. Last question from Elijah. What is the silliest game you've ever had to review? Okay. So that's a hard one to answer because, as I just stated, I've been in the review game for 26 years and I played game even longer than that. So, I mean, if you're talking about my history with games, well, I guess let's keep it just to the review period. So 26 years of all the games I reviewed, I've reviewed several thousand games, literally several thousand. That's not an exaggeration. So looking back on that list, there's a lot of games to go through, but I will say that it's tough to answer that because I don't think games are like silly. Even games that are lighthearted or cartoonish or goofy or that are aimed at children, I don't really inherently see them as silly at all. I just see them as different types of exploration of ideas, different types of concepts people are trying to communicate, different mechanical aspects that they want you to play with. Like maybe they're playing with gravity, maybe they're playing with something bouncy, maybe it's jumping, maybe it's shooting, who knows? So I don't ever really see a game and go, oh my God, that is so silly. I mean, rarely do I see that. And usually it's just about the content, not necessarily about the game itself. I mean, if I had to pick something that I just took a look at, it was like, oh my God, this is just so goofy. Gosh, I mean, I'd have to say probably Demon Souls because it was just so hard. The story was so murky. That combat was just so tough. All that stamina nonsense. I don't think anyone's ever going to go for that. Those guys are just ridiculous. Okay. Let's see. Moving on to Ron. Superfan Ron. Ron says, what's one of the most creative games you've played in recent memory? For example, Scribblenauts always amazes me for how you can create nearly anything, even while running on just a DS. Okay, this is a good question, and it's really tough to answer because there's a lot of creativity out there. I don't know how limited you wanted me to answer this, and by limited I mean I have like a lot of years to draw from experience, and so some of the stuff that sprang to mind came from a couple years ago, or maybe quite a few more than a couple years ago. The first one that leaped to mind, honestly, is called Magic Pendule: The Quest for Color. I don't know if you've heard of this. I believe it was on PlayStation 1, I think. It was a Japanese game, basic RPG structure-ish, but the hook to this one is that you created your characters, not your main character. I forget what it was. I think you had like a regular character, but you could create animals or monsters or stuff like this. It was, I don't want to say it was a Pokemon thing. I don't think that's accurate, but like you had a portion of the game where you drew using the PlayStation controller in the game, and there were like certain axes and there were certain qualities you could give them. So like you could draw a cartoon character that had like 2 feet and 2 arms and 2 legs, and then as soon as you hit the button, like it would animate, like it would move around, not perfectly. We're not talking about like Pixar level quality stuff here, but it would move like, it would make sense. Like you would attach an arm to the arm point, you would attach a leg to the leg point, and the game would take into account, or at least it would try to, how many elbows it had, how many knees it had, where was it supposed to bend. And it was really funny because sometimes the computer would misunderstand what you were trying to do, and you would get these like really bizarre, unexplained, or unexpected animations that sometimes were awesome, and sometimes were just like really like, oh my God, I can't believe it thinks it wants the leg to bend that way or something. But it worked for the most part. It totally worked. You can have, I believe there was like qualities to it too. Like some things could be stiff, like armor. Some things could be floppy, like a tentacle. There were motion bits. I think there were guns. There was all sorts of stuff, and you could add color to it and everything. And so I remember being like really fucking into that game when it came out because you could just do like basically anything within a certain size limit. And so you could like add wings and tails and all this stuff, and then you could take that character out in the world and fight. And like looking back on it now, how fucking incredible that they were able to do that on the PlayStation 1. I use either PS1 or PS2, but regardless, it doesn't matter because still a technical feat. Either way, that was pretty fucking incredible stuff. So that's a real good one. Maybe check it out on YouTube if you can't find a copy of it. I don't know if it's still available for PC or what, but boy, that one was like, that really blew me away with its creativity back then. Another one, another really old one, and one that I almost never see people talk about is called RAD, R-A-D, Robot Alchemic Drive. This one came from Sandlot, I believe, who are the people who are making Earth Defense Force now. And EDF is fine. It's not really my jam, but it's okay. But RAD is one that I really wish they would come back to. This was a fantastic game. Again, pretty early days. Either PS1, probably PS2 now that I think about it. But the premise of it was you were a human-sized kid, person, whatever, and you had a remote control unit. And that remote control unit controlled a giant fucking robot that was like as big as a giant fucking robot. I mean, it was like 10 stories tall, at least 10 stories tall. And so you had a little jetpack and you had your control unit and you could fly up to go sit on like the shoulder of the robot. And you didn't have to be. You could be on the ground. You could be, on a mountaintop a little ways away as long as you were within remote control range. And you controlled that giant fucking robot with your remote control as if it was the PlayStation controller to like fight other monsters. And the scale of it was just fucking bonkers. Like I have never played anything like it before or since. And I am stunned that like no one has picked up that torch and ran with it. I clearly remember being in that game, having the big fucking robot, walking like just like clomp, just like stomping through cities. And you were on top of the shoulder of the robot, like in human scale. So everything looked fucking enormous. The robots were moving really slow because they were huge. And you were controlling it with like your D-pad, like as if you were controlling it like for real. And then you would like, move and do like a rocket punch and you would like kick or something. And like seeing it from that scale, it's just like watching a kaiju movie. Like if you're watching Godzilla and you're one of the people in the sidelines and Godzilla's fucking towering above you and blowing his breath, same kind of vibe, right? That game was fucking incredible. I mean, it ran like shit because it was really pushing the hardware, but like still, you could totally see what it was going for. Brilliant fucking idea. If you like giant robots, if you like kaiju, anything like that, just so fucking awesome. And it was really cool sometimes. Like it was the best thing to do to be on the robot's shoulder because that was as close as you could come to being like over the shoulder camera perspective because it followed your human viewpoint. And sometimes, when you had the upper hand in battle, that was all fine. But if one of the monsters got the drop on you, like hit your robot when you were expecting, like you would get like knocked off the shoulder of your robot, you would like go flying off and the robot would be over there. And so all of a sudden you would have to like remember if you're not on the robot looking over its shoulder, if the robot's facing you, then the controls are opposite, right? Or if you're above or below, you have to kind of take into account elevation when you're doing the remote control. Just like in real life, if you're doing a remote control car, it goes around the track and you have to remember which way it's facing and then what does that mean for you as the operator, so forth and so on. So Robot Alchemic Drive is fucking amazing, fucking brilliant shit. And I totally wish somebody would bring it back. I mean, I'm surprised that Sandlot hasn't brought it back. I mean, as far as I know, no one has done anything like that since Robot Alchemic Drive. So if anybody's listening, developers listening, anybody from Sandlot listening, anybody who has access to those people, will you please fucking nudge them and tell them to make another one of these? Because like with today's technology, this would be fucking incredible, dude. It would be so fucking amazing. And we just need to like make it. I would love to see better frame rate, more Ps, better, better models, better texture mapping, everything. I mean, it was incredible back then. I can only think it would be just like mind blowing today. So that one is definitely one of the most creative I've ever played for sure. Going a little bit more recent is The Artful Escape. I talked about this one just a couple years ago. So this is within the last 5 years ish or something like that. You can still play this one. You don't have to go on like YouTube or go in some dusty archive. But this is one where it's like a music game. It's kind of like a music experience where you were kind of running from left to right, playing guitar. There's a little bit of a trans narrative in there, which I thought was pretty well done. But also it's just about like playing the song, getting in the vibe, moving along. Not really a game. I mean, it is a game. I'm not having the is it a game or is it not game debate, but it wasn't like a game in the traditional sense. It was like going with the flow, hearing the music, just running along in the environments and kind of just like taking in the spectacle of it all. I felt like that one was super creative. I don't know that I've played anything quite like that since, where it just really focuses on being in the moment, and I really enjoyed that quite a bit. The Artful Escape is amazing. So, Ron, there you go. Those are three of my most creative games that I can think of. Check those out on YouTube, if nothing else. Hopefully that's a good answer to your question. Ron has another question here. He says, do you ever think VR gaming can become mainstream as costs go down and it becomes more in line with console gaming? No, I don't. I'm not big on the VR train myself, never have been. I mean, okay, so like if you were to say, hey, Brad, here is the Star Trek holodeck where you can go inside of it and like, I don't know, have sex with all the people in it and you can shoot people and fly and stuff. Okay, yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah, sure. And as other people have observed, that might be the end of human civilization because you would go inside the holodeck and never leave because you would just like live out all your dreams and never have any reason to go back to the real world. So maybe it's better that we don't have the holodeck, although I would like that for like a week. But anything short of that, like if we're talking about like helmet, like the stuff we have today, no, I don't think so. Because honestly, okay, so full disclosure, I don't like check out every single VR game that comes down the pike, right? Like I'm more about console, just traditional console gaming, couch, chair, TV, controller, that kind of thing. But we do have VR in the house. My son was real hot for VR for a long time, and we got him a MetaQuest 2, I think. And I've played the Meta. I've played the PSVR number 1, not number 2. I played, I feel like 1 or 2 other types. I don't remember which kind. So I've kind of just like kept an eye out. And even though I'm not like the expert on VR gaming, I do get a lot of PR about it. I do watch a lot of videos about it. And I just don't see anything there that's really compelling to me. Now, maybe that's just me. Maybe some people are really into some of that stuff. I know when Carlos was, former host Carlos was on the show, he really liked VR a lot more than I did. But I just don't see anything that really is compelling to me to play for more than like 20, 30 minutes, right? Or maybe even just like 1 or 2 sessions. I just don't see the same type of interactions, the same type of deep interaction, the same type of deep content, the same type of stuff that I would want to play for like 6 hours at a time. I just don't see it there. I think there's a couple things too. Like I think that by its very nature, VR is isolating. I've said this before on the show, but in my house, we're all gamers. Me, my wife, and my son, we're all gamers, like hardcore gamers. And so in our living room, we have 3 stations. I have mine, my wife has hers, my son has his, and we all play games on our own consoles at the same time. So I've got my TV, wife's got hers, son's got his. Now maybe that sounds exorbitant to some people, but that's the way our family works, right? We play games way more than we watch TV or watch movies, and that's just like a social thing for us. And like we're often in the same room. Now we can play games together, and we do, Helldivers or something like that, Monster Hunter for sure. But often we're just playing our own thing. Like I'm playing something Warhammer, and my wife is playing Astrobot, and my son is playing like, War Thunder or something like that. And we're not playing together, but we're talking. Like I'm like looking at his screen, he's looking at my screen, wife is looking at our screens, we're chit-chatting. Oh wow, look at that kill you got. That was amazing. Or oh, that vehicle looks so cool. Or what's going on in you? Oh, look at that. Oh, you made the jump. Amazing. That's so good. Congratulations. Like we're talking back and forth, like we're interacting with each other. And so that's a really integral part of our gaming experience. Even though we are not traditionally social gaming per se, like we're not all in the same game. We're not racing each other. We're not helping each other do anything, but we're just in the same room, existing in the same space, interacting with each other constantly, looking at each other, knowing what each other's doing. That's a really positive family experience for us. And I wouldn't trade that for anything. The times that my son has been playing VR, he feels like he's off in his own world. He's no longer part of the social group. He's no longer part of the family. He's just like doing weird stuff on his helmet, and he's just like walking around, and he's like shooting at stuff that we can't see, and he's interacting with things that we're not aware of, and it's just kind of weird, and he's got to watch out to not fall down and to not bump into things. And so it just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel like he's part of the group anymore. And the times that I have played VR as well, it does feel very isolating. It feels like my whole world just falls away and I'm doing whatever this game thing is. So I think in general, something that's missing from VR is like true social integration, and not just like one of those wonky ass Facebook, like meta weird, like Second Life chat room things or whatever. Like it's got to be something easy and comfortable and natural, that doesn't feel like a big wall to get over. And but that's the other part too, is like, it feels very like a thing, like a big thing you got to do, right? Like you're in a helmet, it's sweaty. Even if you don't have a cable going to your PC, you still got this gear on, and you know you get tired after a while. It's heavy on your head, or maybe you're just like you're focusing really hard on it, and so you get kind of exhausted. I don't know about you guys, but like when I play games, it's usually because I want to relax, and so I don't want to like get the special gear on. I don't want to have to like clear a space. I don't want to have to make sure no one's in my area. And then I don't want to feel cut off from my family or cut off from, or friends or anything like that. It doesn't appeal so far. So I think that's a problem. It just doesn't hit the same demographic. I mean, if I was, I don't know. I mean, if I was like 20 years old, had no wife and kids, if I was like living the bachelor lifestyle again, would I be more into VR? I mean, maybe, but even so, that still doesn't solve the problem of none of the games really seem like anything that I would want to spend any significant amount of time with, friends, family or not. So I think that's a problem too. I just don't see any compelling software. I will say it's also interesting that when my son got his Meta, he was on it like every day for like maybe 2-3 days or maybe like a week. And truth be told, he hasn't touched it in months. Like he's had free access to it. He's got, he can get games for it. And his friends all have them. Every one of his friends. And they were actually the ones who kind of like egged him on into getting this. All of his friends who also have headsets, they don't play them anymore. Like they don't do those things. I see them playing Roblox. I see them playing War Thunder. I see them playing Helldivers. We just played a major Helldiver session yesterday, buggy as shit, but still had fun because it was 4 people, all on a squad, and none of us were in VR. Like it was just like regular ass gameplay. So even though he's got it, he dropped off. And if he's not the person who's going to play VR, then who the hell's going to play VR? I don't know. So I just don't think it's there yet. I don't think it's in the right social position. I don't think it's in the right space for people to do it. I know that his friends got together to do a VR event where they went to like a large warehouse type situation, and there was a lot of space, and it was one of those like, hey, you're all surviving a zombie apocalypse kind of things. And so everybody was pretending to run around in a VR space shooting zombies, but it was like 4 or 5 people connected in the same, not only in the same game space, but also in the same physical space. And it was a large event space. Like you had to go and get tickets for it. It wasn't just like a casual thing. It was like this big event. And so that seemed kind of fun to them, but that was more of like a big deal, right? It's like when you get together to go to like, I don't know, play laser tag in the 80s, or you go to a pool party, or you go bowling with your friends or something. It's like a thing you do. It's not just a real casual pick up and play the same way that I see video games taking. So I don't think it's in the right space to become a casual, mainstream, common thing. Maybe in the future, if the technology gets more easy to access, if the games get better, if it's less of a barrier, if it's more social. But that's a lot of hurdles to get over. And personally, I'd rather have them just jump ahead to the holodeck so we can all have safe sex as much as we want to. That's my personal goal. So let's see. One final question from Ron. Other than accessibility, which everyone should want, in my opinion, and that's my opinion too, what's something you'd really like to see more of in video games over the next few years? He also says in parentheses, I'm sure your answer will be AI. Haha. Yes, it is not AI. AI can get fucked. I'm not going to talk about it on this podcast, but I have a very low opinion of AI right now. We'll talk about that on another show. So to answer in brief this question, what do I want over the next few years? I want more time spent on writing and characters for narrative games and ways to enhance that. It can be big choices. It can be small choices. I want to see feeling like the stuff that you do in a game affects other characters. Not just like, oh, I completed your quest. Here are the 3 beaver skins that you wanted, and now give me 5 gold coins. I mean, like, like some of the stuff, I think, for example, in The Witcher 3, I realize this is not exactly a perfect example, but some of those quests were pretty fucking amazing. And so many of them had to do with like the villagers and the surrounding people, and stuff that you did in that game would affect like other people. Like if you solved this particular quest, it would affect these other people that were around. And so you kind of saw some knock-on effect there. I would like to see more of that, where living in a world seems to have a little bit more of an effect. And if you're like a virtuous knight doing good deeds, it'll help the town that you're near. Or if you're a thief and you steal a bunch of stuff, it would have that kind of effect. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Vampire from Don't Nod. I don't know if people have played it, but it's a really great game that has some serious problems, but overall a pretty great game. Had a really good time with Vampire, and they explored that a little bit. And to be clear, I'm not talking about realistic simulation where AI is acting like everybody's a real person and I think they're all no. I'm just talking about just more consequences, more interconnected things to make it feel like more weight is going on in the world that you're doing things. So, like for example, in Vampire, you were a vampire and you could choose to drain people or not, and there was like a whole risk reward system to it where if you drained people right away, you got an immediate power boost. If you did not drain people, then you were weaker. But the effect that you had after draining those people was pretty significant. If you left people alone, then there were more people to be in a town. It was more populated. If you drained people, certain shops would close. Or if you, less people would be on the streets. You'd notice more vermin on the streets, a little bit more crime, a little bit more danger. And if you drained certain people, they were called the pillars of the community. It would throw a whole district into disarray, like social services. There was a nurse, and if you drained the nurse, she was the only person who was like helping take care of homeless people and curing them of disease. If you drank her blood and killed her, there was no one left to do that, and so that whole district would fall into ruin. If there was like one really virtuous person who was holding back the gangs in the wharf district, if you drained that person, then the gangs would take over and there would be no one left to stop them. So you saw like this giant community effect where what you did had a big impact on the whole world and all the systems. So the experience you would have would be radically different, and it would be not necessarily more difficult, although very well could be, but you might be walking down the street in one scenario and just talking to people and having a nice afternoon. In another scenario, you would be fighting off vampire hunters and like dodging rats, and it would be a very different experience. So I think that kind of system is really cool and neat, and I want to see more of that, where it's not necessarily super scripted, but like the things that you do, you can see a cause and effect, and you can really feel like you're having more agency in a particular world. I think that's great. And if the cost of that is less polish, less AAA, more experimentation, more AA, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with a AAA game. I'm not against them or anything, but I usually don't find my most exciting experiences in the AAA space. Those are kind of like the safe bets, the big blockbusters, the formula that they know the most people will like and they expect to make the most sales on, and that's fine. There's a place for those. But I think for the kind of stuff that I want, you're going to have to find a developer who's not afraid to take a little risk. They're not going to be putting all their resources into polish and graphics. They're going to be putting resources into writing, into story trees, into cause and effect, different versions of people, different versions of a world, something like that I think would be really great. And if it takes AA, slightly janky, maybe there's some weird physics, or maybe the dialogues don't all go together, or maybe there's some, rough edges, that's fine, because I want to see more experimentation with those ideas. Something that's really different and pushing the medium forward. It's not just about better graphics. It's not just about better music. I mean, those things are nice, but it's not really moving the medium forward in any way. I really want to see things that are fundamentally different, giving you a fundamentally different experience when you actually play the game. And for me, I'm totally fine to have less beautiful graphics, less shiny graphics, if it means that what I'm doing with my time is actually more interesting, more engaging, is piquing my curiosity, feels like it has more weight to it. So that's something that I would like to see in games in the next few years. And should everybody want that? I mean, sure, why not? I think that's a great idea. Everybody should want that. But I don't think everybody does, and that's fine. Everybody's different. But for me, in the way that I can answer this question, that's my answer, Ron. And hopefully that has satisfied you. And thank you for those good questions. Those were all really good ones. Okay, next up is a slightly larger one and an interesting one that I don't think anybody's ever asked me before. And it comes from both DC and John over at Gaming in the Wild. They were separate questions, but kind of similar. I'll read them both, and then you'll get the answer. From DC, it says, if you feel like this is a good prompt, how has your top 5 or top games of all time evolved over the course of your gaming lifetime? Have any games been locked down in your list from the beginning? What newer games either surprisingly or unsurprisingly cemented themselves in your top 5 or top 10 in more recent years? John says, I sometimes find that games rise and fall in my estimation with a bit of distance and hindsight. When you look back at your GOTYs from like the last 10 years, what were they? And in retrospect, do you stand by them as more of a snapshot of your feeling at that time? Did any of them become all-time greats in your mind or fall away over time? Would you change any of them if you were redoing the lists now? Well, you guys are in luck because I am a list maker. That's right. I'm going to out myself right here, loud and proud. I make lists. I make a lot of lists. I do it now in my advanced age because I do forget some stuff, but also there's just so much stuff to remember. It's impossible to keep track of it all without keeping a list. And I've been keeping lists ever since I was a kid, actually. I remember when I was a little kid, I was keeping track of the toys that I had and the toys that I wanted. And I even was going through some boxes the other day and I found some quote unquote reviews I did. I must have been like maybe like 10 or 11 years old. I had like one sentence reviews and I actually drew stars next to the games back then. I don't have it with me, otherwise I'd read it out because it was really funny, but it's around here somewhere. So I keep track of like everything. I keep track of the games I've reviewed. I keep track of the games I own, keep track of the games I've played and finished, etc., etc., etc. I got shitloads of lists, which makes it possible for me to answer this question easily. So I was trying to think about how to answer this. And I thought the easiest thing to do would just be to actually read out the list, maybe give a little commentary, and then we'll kind of go through. I'm not going to read out every top 10 I've kept since forever, but I did go back in the archives, and for whatever reason, so I guess just for context, I started working at Game Critics at 2000. So that was 24 years ago. And I had kept lists kind of haphazardly before that, but I think once I got to Game Critics, I really kind of cemented the amount of stuff I was writing down, specifically in relation to games, right? So I don't know what happened between 2000 and 2006. I guess I just wasn't keeping track of what my top 10 of all time were in those years. So the earliest I have record of, which I'm a little bit embarrassed to say, is 2006. And now I had top 10s before that, but I just didn't write them down. And honestly, I mean, I could probably recreate something, but like I would rather just go with like the hard actual data. And these are hard lists that I had down. These are like legit the games that I had written down in the year 2006, kept a list, and I will read them to you now. So the first one I have, 2006, my top 10 of all time. Number 10, Culdcept on PS2. Number 9, Shadow Hearts, the original, PS2. Number 8, Darkstalkers 2, The Night Warriors. Number 7, actually, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I bet people don't even know some of these games. Let me go back and start over, and I'll explain what these are. So going back to number 10, Culdcept, Culdcept. That was a cross between Monopoly and deck building and maybe even a little bit of Pokemon. It was really big for a couple of years. Me and my friend Doug Walsh, who wrote strategy guides, we had some serious competitions playing this online. It was a really wonderful game. I think it's so fun. I don't know if you can get it anywhere, probably on PC, I guess, but Culdcept was the shit. Really liked it a lot. Shadow Hearts was the first in the kind of cult series. It was a JRPG with a supernatural theme. They had heroes that were like wizards, werewolf, magician. I think the evil guy was like Roger Bacon, who's supposed to be like this real-time historical warlock from, I don't know, the England or something, the England, as they say. So that was pretty good. It kicked off a bunch of sequels, and all the sequels were kind of like more wink, wink, horny, nudge, nudge. The original Shadow Hearts was pretty straight up, though. And that was, I think, one of the very first games in my life where I actually felt compelled to try to 100% it. I didn't. I got like 99% because I missed like one... Oh, I think it was like one optional chest or something stupid like that I couldn't go back and get. So that kind of ground my gears, but good game. I mean, I've looked at it recently. It's really rough on the eyes, but I still think it's a cool experience. Number 8 was Darkstalkers 2, The Night Warriors. This is the 2D monster themed fighting game. Very much like Street Fighter, but it has like Frankenstein, Succubus, Dracula, Mummy, Fishman, etc., etc. Crazy animation. If you've never played Darkstalkers, the animation is just way over the top, super smooth, super fluid. That's what I loved most about it. Number 6, Tekken, the entire series, although I think Tekken 2 is probably my favorite. Another 2D fighting game. Love Tekken 2 so much. And honestly, for me, that's where the series peaked. The graphics were still pretty blocky, but kind of good looking still. I really like the style. But for me, it was the combat engine. Ever since Tekken 2 and after that, they have really leaned into juggles, like way too much for my taste. And so it kind of became less about learning the moves than it did about learning the juggles, which was not fun to me. So, but even back in the day, I did love Tekken 2. Still have a great affection for it. And I really loved the original combat system of Tekken, which was pretty revolutionary at the time, where you had a stick and 4 buttons, and the buttons were left arm, right arm, left leg, and right leg. And so if you just watched the arcade for a while, seeing what the moves people did were, you could actually figure out what the moves were. And, you know, GameFAQs didn't exist back then. It was just like whatever you knew is what you knew. So you could actually like study how the people were moving and figure out the moves just by oh, okay, this guy's ducking and then he's moving back and then he's doing a right punch. I bet if I do a, quarter circle back right punch, oh, there it is. That's what it was. That's the move. Like it was really exciting to do that. Monster Rancher, the series, was number 5 for me in 2006. You don't really hear much about Monster Rancher anymore, but it was big back then. Kind of like Pokemon, but it was also kind of like a cool down combat engine, not like a JRPG engine the way that Pokemon did. Lots of different monsters, and the big gimmick from Monster Rancher, not Monster Hunter, Monster Rancher, was that you could take any CD you had, put it in your PlayStation, and it would generate you a monster based off of the random data from your CD. Now, that was the cool part, because at the time, and if you don't know what CDs, please look them up, we had lots of music CDs laying around. It could be computer CD, music CD. It could be like a computer CD if you had one. It would read all, like 99% of everything. Very rarely did you get a disc it couldn't read. And it would generate a monster off of that. It would give you like one of the basic type monsters and give you these special colors or abilities based on what was on the CD. And there were a few that were not random. That was really kind of the big surprise, was like there were some specific CDs that had very specific, unique monsters burned onto them. Like one of the most famous examples was a band from the 80s, NXS. They had an album called Kick. And so if you put NXS Kick in your PlayStation, you would always get like the soccer ball monster because it was Kick, right? And I think there was a Van Halen album. I forget which one it was, but it had a cherub on the front of it. And if you put that one in, you would get like an angel off the disc every single time. So if you knew what the quote unquote like predetermined discs were, you could get that special monster every time, but you could raise them, raise their stats, train them, battle them. A fucking really fun game. Really enjoyed that quite a bit. Number 4, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, the original. I think that was a great visual novel back then. It elevated the visual novel genre and really busted open the door for a lot of games that came after it. Wonderful animation, funny sound effects, cool story, great mysteries, and really active participants in the visual novel. It wasn't just reading, it was like putting together clues, doing the whole objection, overruled kind of thing in the courtroom. Great stuff. I am always going to be a Phoenix Wright fan forever. Number 3, and some people may be surprised to hear this, but Final Fantasy X was my number 3 of all time back in 2006. I really like Final Fantasy X quite a bit. I know that people kind of think less of it after all this time, but back then I thought it was really great stuff. I thought the graphics were great. The story was actually pretty good. I really liked the characters a lot, honestly. Big fan of Tidus and Waka, Oron, Yuna, Lulu, all those characters. I thought they were great. I thought the writing was actually quite good. Better than the average Final Fantasy. I'm sure people would fight me on that, but I remembered really liking Tidus's daddy issues and the integration of Yuna and how they got to the end of the game. The final boss confrontation I thought was quite good, and I really liked just how the whole end game rolled along. I'm not going to spoil anything in case you haven't played it, but it really stood out to me as being better than the other Final Fantasies at the time, and that one was my favorite for quite a while. Number 2, Vandal Hearts. Oh man, I love this one so much. It was from Konami, I believe. It was a turn-based tactics where you had a series of characters, and back in the day there weren't like a lot of turn-based tactics, so this was one of the earlier ones, and you just had this party where at the time you could advance them through different classes. That wasn't as common as it is now. Like back then it was kind of mind-blowing to take a swordsman guy and then advance him to a knight, and then if you had the proper item that you found in some of the battles, then you could make him into like a, I don't know, Dark Knight or something like that or whatever. So having the option to advance your characters back then was pretty revolutionary. It was also kind of well known because it had an extremely gory kill animation. When you would do the death stroke on somebody, this giant gout of blood would come out. And I thought it was just like so fucking cool. But handcrafted levels were really great. The story was good at the time. Each one was a predetermined character. It was not like Final Fantasy Tactics, how you just have these generic units and kind of make them do whatever you want. I don't care for that style. I prefer predetermined characters. And so this one was that. There was also a secret that I thought was just amazing. There was like one, I think it was like a I want to say it was a Nautilus shell or something like that was hidden, one per level in the entire game. And if you took the time to find every shell and every level, when you got to the final level, you got a super character, like your main character, like completely powered up into like this like almost godlike character. He could kill everybody with one hit, and he was like basically invulnerable. So if you put in the time, you could breeze through like the end of the game with that super guy. It was just like a really awesome reward for putting in all that extra work. I think Vandal Hearts is great. It's probably creaky and super outdated by now, and I bet a lot of people wouldn't really see what was good about it just because we've come so far since then. But back in the day, that really stood out as a turn-based tactics that was really worth looking at. And my number one of all time in 2006 was Snatcher on Sega CD. Snatcher was my favorite game for quite a while. I'm sure most of you probably heard of it. If not, it was one of Hideo Kojima's earliest games. It was a visual novel, also a little bit of a point and click. It was very much like Blade Runner, very Blade Runner inspired. You play a Gillian Seed, who is a junker in the far-flung future, and there are androids or robots that take the place of humans. They replace them, and Gillian's job was to track down who were the androids and kill them and get rid of them. Great visual novel. The voices were fucking amazing back then. A lot of the sound effects were great. The story was great. I actually played through it again a couple years ago, and it doesn't quite hold up because there are a few action sequences where you're doing some like quick time shooting, and it's not even a full QTE the way that you might think of it today. It was a pretty clunky kind of shooting interface that didn't quite work, and I think a couple of the jokes didn't quite go over as well, but I will always have great affection for that game. It was my favorite for a long time. It was my brother's favorite for a long time. And in fact, we had this running bet between the two of us that whichever one of us got married and had a kid first, we would name our kid Gillian after the main character of Snatcher. And he got his girlfriend pregnant first. So my nephew's name is literally Gillian because he is named after Snatcher. So although it could have easily been my kid, but he beat me to it. So that was my top 10 of 2006. And that list stayed pretty static for quite a while. I mean, a few things would move, a few things would change, but that was a good long reign of that list until, let's say 2018. I was going to pick 2017 as being exactly in the middle between 2006 and today, 2024. But for some fucking reason, I didn't write down 2017. I don't know what I was thinking. I don't do drugs or anything, so it could have been drugs. So maybe I was just busy, or I'm not sure what I was doing. But I didn't write down 2017. So 2018 is the very next best thing. It's only 1 year later, and I think that's a good approximation of where I was at as a midpoint between then and now. Okay, so 2018, top 10. Starting at 10, Marvel Puzzle Quest. I think that's the first and only mobile game that's ever been in my top 10. And worthy, because it was pretty exciting back then. Not only because it was a match 3, I mean, nothing really inherently exciting about a match 3, but the ability to earn Marvel characters at a time when there wasn't a whole ton of other Marvel stuff around. You could power them up. They kept adding characters like once a month. It was like everybody was playing it. It was like a real zeitgeist moment. And to be perfectly honest, I still play Marvel Puzzle Quest literally every day. And in fact, I believe that Marvel Puzzle Quest is the game that I've put the most time into ever, out of any game ever. So I've been playing it since 2018, at least once a day. Very few days have I skipped, and 10, 15 minutes a day or something like that. But it really adds up over time, and it's so easy. Like it's always with me. It's on my phone. It's come with me through various different phones. Play it in line at the bank, at the grocery store, when I'm in my car, like whatever. Not when I'm driving. And so it's so easy to get that time in. You don't have to be at a console. You don't even have to be at home. So I think that's really the secret. But I have literally been playing Marvel Puzzle Quest this entire time. So that is definitely number 10 and a worthwhile number 10, I think. Number 9, I bumped Phoenix Wright. It was, number 4 in 2006. It fell all the way to number 9 in 2017. Number 8 was West of Loathing on the Switch. 2D RPG, comedy RPG with really simple stick figure drawings and like blank white backgrounds. This was taking place in a Western environment. I didn't really know anything about the Loathing series until I played West of Loathing on the Switch. And it just really blew me away because it was so funny. It's so hard to be funny in games. And basically every joke landed. I thought it was quite clever. It was deep because there was lots of secrets and lots of things to unlock and lots of things that connected to other things. If you were paying attention, you could really dig pretty deep into it. And beyond that, I appreciated like how much content there was. There was tons, and there was also a lot of quality of life, like things that were added to it. For example, you could fast travel if you wanted to, and if you wanted to grind, there were very specific spots that were created to let you grind if you wanted to. And if you wanted to grind, you could say how much you wanted to grind. I feel like fighting 3 snakes right now. I feel like fighting 10 snakes right now. And the game would just let you do that because they just wanted you to, engage with it on your own terms. But really, more than anything, it was just incredibly hilarious. Like joke after joke after joke after joke after joke after joke. And they were basically like 99.9% really funny. And I just have to recognize that. That's a very, very tough feat to pull off. Number 7 in 2017 was Monster Hunter, the entire series. But I think at that time, Freedom Unite was the one that I liked the most. I spent quite a bit of time on, I want to say the PSP, I believe. Went through that game. It was the first time that I really got into Monster Hunter. There had been earlier Monster Hunters, but they didn't click. Just for one reason or another. The interface was too clunky, or it was too hard, unbalanced, and nobody was really playing them, and it was just really, really difficult. But Freedom Unite was the first one where I finally got it. Like, I feel like the system's advanced enough. It's still difficult. I mean, balls hard, but it was easy enough to get into it. I had friends that were playing, and in fact, I remember I was playing with one of my friends, Silent Hideshira. I believe he was in, I want to say he was in Scotland, or was he England? I forget. I want to say it was Scotland. Silent, if you're listening, what's up, buddy? I haven't talked to you for like a million years, but he and I were playing, and I believe I met J Monster and Disco Beaver around that time, and we were all playing together, and it was just like a really good time playing with my friends in the UK. And it was like I had my PSP, and I want to say that I was using my PS3 as like a router, and then we were connecting up online through the PS3. It was like this janky ass fucking crazy connection thing, but we were like all so desperate to play because it was so much fun, and we were having so much fun with each other. And I played that also with my son. Freedom Unite was I played with my older son, and we spent so much time with it. I mean, we went all the way into the upper ranks of Monster Hunter. We fought some of the Elder Dragons, and it was just like this amazing, incredible time that we could bond on this and have a great family experience like that. So Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, number 7. Number 6, Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. That seems kind of crazy to me. Not that it's on my list, but that it's so low at that time. I'm not sure why I had it at 6. Now that I think about it, boy, I really couldn't even tell you. But anyway, it made it on my top 10 in the year 2018. And I am a huge Witcher 3 fan. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but for me, I thought the writing, characters, I mean, Geralt was like an instant hit in my house. My wife ended up playing through Witcher 3. She fucking loved it. My kid played some, not much, because not a lot of it was appropriate, but certain sections, he could do some monster hunting or something. That was about it. But just the story, the writing, the way it was so massive, the way that it rambled on throughout the countryside, and you could meet so many people and do so many things. And I just like got lost in that world. I just enjoyed doing everything in it. I believe I did every quest that was available to me. And I didn't get like all of like the mythical treasures or anything like that. But man, I did like basically everything you could do, anything a sane person could do in that game. I did, and I just really had just the most wonderful time. Witcher 3, I think, is a real high water mark for me in gaming, and which is, again, why I'm kind of surprised I put it at number 6. I wish I could go back to my 2018 self and be like, dude, what was up with you? That was weird. Number 5, Helldivers 1, the original on PS4. I've frequently said this, and it still is true. One of the best multiplayer experiences I've ever had in my life. I think it was such a cool new take on multiplayer, top-down, friendly fire on all the time, high intensity, high pressure shooting for players where you had to co-op. You had co-op that was built in that only rewarded teamwork. Like trolling got you nothing. It hurt you if you trolled because you were only undercutting your team and you needed your team to survive. Fast action. Everything about it was on point. I just think Helldivers 1 is so fucking awesome. Like all the different weapons, all the different vehicles, all the way that you could go up. And the wife and I, we rinsed that game before it did the update. We did basically everything. We got all the achievements except for one, which was, I believe, kill... It was either 250,000 or 500,000 monsters, and we got pretty close, but we just kind of burned out. But all the other achievements, did everything, beat the highest level of difficulty until they patched in 3 more, which was crazy. But wonderful, wonderful time. Don't regret that one at all. Number 4, Darkest Dungeon, the original Darkest Dungeon on Switch. Fucking loved Darkest Dungeon. Really hard, but at the same time, by the time it came to Switch, it had some accessibility and it had some quality of life features added that weren't on PC. The art style is fucking second to none. Really reminds me of Mike Mignola, but it's not Mike Mignola, although clearly inspired by that. It's actually done by Chris Bourassa. That's right. Incredible artist, incredible visual style. The sound effects were fantastic. Anybody who's played Darkest Dungeon remembers the narrator. The narrator fucking like sold it so hard. I mean, that decision to put the narrator in was fucking genius. Like you get a good hit and he just says something so fucking epic or whatever, like your guy takes a hit and the guy goes like, "The sharpest blade cuts deep," or something equally cool like that. I don't know. I can't remember all of the quotes, but like he would come in like when something exciting happened. It was just like, damn, that guy's voice is amazing. It sounds so fucking scary and Cthulhu and dark that it just was like a perfect mix. Also, the feeling of having characters that you cared for over the length of the campaign. I remember starting off with the Highwayman and the Knight Crusader, and I had them all the way until the end of the game. And then one of them died. He went to the graveyard, and I didn't know that there was a memory glitch on the Switch where there was a limited amount, and the developers didn't account for this. And so I was planning on reviving my guy from the graveyard, and too many other guys died between my first guy and when I was coming back to revive him, so that it got to that thing where it like deleted the oldest one to make room for the new one. And I didn't know that. And like, oh my God, I was so fucking heartbroken when there was no way for me to revive my guy. I literally like emailed the developers. I poured my heart out to them. I'm like, oh my God, you've got to let me get my guy back. There's no way. And they're like, oh dude, we're so sorry. There's this memory thing. And I'm like, I didn't know that. If I'd known that, it would have been like, oh, I was crying, blubbering mess. It was like shitty and awful. But I love that game so much, dude. It was just like, you'd have your team, your specific guys, you train them up, and you'd be nervous to take them with you. Like you had to take them with you because they were your good guys. But the thought of like permanently losing them was like so chilling. And then if you did lose one, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe I lost so-and-so. And then you go back and you'd panic and you try to like recoup. And oh man, just like managing the team was just so fucking awesome. And just building up over time. In fact, that was another game that I completely rinsed. I beat every boss. I did every level, did all the DLC. I collected every item in the game. I did everything. In fact, I even did everything, and then I earned $1 million just for fun, just grinding through the game because I thought it was a great time. One of the best experiences I think I've ever had. Darkest Dungeon, #1 on the Switch, was just so fantastic. Number 3 in 2018 was Fallout New Vegas. I love me some Fallout New Vegas. Fantastic Fallout. Probably my favorite Fallout. It's pretty rough these days. I'm sure it's better if you play on PC and get some mods and patches and all that stuff, but I played it on 360, and famously, I waited a full year after the game came out because I wanted the developers to fix it and patch it and make it run as good as new because I was so excited to play it. I did not want to have a glitchy experience with it. So I like superhuman test of willpower, literally bought it and then put it aside for like a full 12 months until I knew that it was going to be the best it was going to be. And then I jumped in, and I was really glad that I did. I just loved all the side characters. I loved all the quests, the funny writing. In fact, I was very honored to meet some of the writers who did work on Fallout later on. It was totally by happenstance. They were working on, I believe, oh gosh, what was it? I want to say it was State of Decay. One of the writers from Fallout was on State of Decay, and we got to talking when I was at Undead Labs one time, and he was like, oh, by the way, I'm the guy that wrote part of Fallout New Vegas. And I was like, what? Oh my God. And I started geeking out in real time. It was fantastic. We went out for a burger afterwards and we talked about it. Like, it was so fucking amazing. But I just thought it was great. My favorite Fallout because I think the writing and the quests and the story and the characters are all so good. That stuff is burned in my memory going to New Vegas and like the Elvis impersonators and the wacky extra perks that you could get if you turned that thing on, and everybody at the casino and the robot at the end, and just man, fucking so good, dude. All of it was so good. Number 2 in 2018, Demon Souls. Yes, it's probably still one of my favorite Souls games of all. It is the one that cracked open Souls for me. I mean, not everybody jumped on the Souls train at that time, but we just recently put up, which was, it was GameCritics.com podcast episode 23, I think. Let me check on that. Yes, it was episode 23. So the GameCritics.com podcast, episode 23, it was either right before Demon Souls launched in America or like right immediately afterwards. We got an interview with Aram Jabari, who is now at Sony. I believe he's the big dog over at Sony, but he was working for Atlas back in the day. And if you may recall, Atlas are the people who brought it over back then. They hooked us up with a pre-release copy of Demon Souls, a review guide, a bunch of stuff, extras. And we talked about it, and we were one of the first people who were really promoting Souls here in the States back in the day, which I'm extremely proud of. We saw the value of it. We saw how good it was, and we knew it was going to be something special. So we were early cheerleaders of the Souls series before it was even a series. So you can listen to that on episode 23. It's up on GameCritics.com right now. And for me, I really love Demon Souls. I think the level design is great. I love the hub and spoke version. I know some people are like allergic to it or whatever, but for me, hub and spoke is really the way to go. I like that the most. I thought the story is probably the most intelligible it has been for me anyway. I know that certain elements of Demon Souls 2 were not too bad. But Souls in general are pretty crap at telling stories, and I will fight anybody that tries to convince me otherwise. But Demon Souls was comprehensible. You knew what you were there for. you could kind of piece together what it was pretty straightforwardly. There wasn't a lot of like dependence on item descriptions. You didn't have to like do any arcane, Vadi videos or anything like that. You could just kind of follow it along, and it made sense. And the ending made sense as well. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I thought the ending was fantastic. It really tied together the themes of the entire game, so I was able to enjoy it mechanically. For being so different at the time than anything else that was out, but also because it was such a cool story and such a cool theme and such a great thing that was being done. Very experimental, and I was a huge fan of King's Field before Demon Souls came out, also from FromSoft. And King's Field, if you haven't played it, is basically first-person Souls. Really rough, really early, but it's undeniable to see the connection there. So the thing that they were working on with King's Field 1, 2, and 3, Forgotten City as well, finally came to fruition in Demon Souls. And if you go back to GameCritics.com, you can read my review of Demon Souls when it dropped. Like literally when it was brand new, I wrote a full review, and I talked about the connections between Demon Souls and King's Field. I talked about how different and how amazing it was, and how From had been working on this formula for so long, and it was finally getting some recognition, and I was so proud and so happy to have been a part of it. So Demon Souls, number 2, fantastic. Number 1 game of all time in 2018 is the Mass Effect trilogy. All the games, I think, are great. If I had to rank them in terms of my personal favorite, I would say 1, 3, 2, because I think 2 is a little bit too much like Gears of War, and I don't think the story that was there was told very well. The main story was crap. The side stories were great, and that's what everybody likes about it, but the main story is crap. Final boss was a fucking joke. Stupid, ridiculous, absurd joke that I can't believe they did, which sucks. But otherwise, but that aside, I still love Mass Effect. Commander Shepard, all of the cast and characters that you're with, the amount of dialogue that you had, the story twists and turns, the choices you could make. Being with Rex in that one part near the water where he has to make a choice, that's really heavy. And then like the musical number that popped up, and then there's so many people you could romance, and just the way it all tied up together was just really great. The whole thing. I know people get their knickers in a twist about Mass Effect 3, which I find impossible to do, because honestly, if you're mad about the actual ending of Mass Effect 3, I didn't think it was that bad, because if you read a lot of 60s and 70s sci-fi, I think it's right in line with that, which is probably what the developers were also shooting for. I would bet any amount of money on. But putting the actual ending aside, the entire game of Mass Effect 3 is basically 50 hours of like epilogue, because every character that you've ever met comes back, even all the side characters, even some of the choices, the repercussions come back. Like the whole fucking game is just like, hey, let's circle back to literally everybody we ever met, and let's just wrap it up with every single person. You get 50 hours of that, dude. People who focus on the very last 10 minutes of the game are really short-sighted. So I don't have any ill will towards Mass Effect. I love that entire series. Trilogy is just fucking best. One of the best series of my whole life. I remember, man, when that game came out, like taking 2 days off of work and just staying the fuck home and playing that thing just like all day, dude. Like just good fucking times. I don't know that I could do that today, but back then that was what I did, and I fucking loved it. Okay, now we are in 2023. This year, well, last year anyway. I haven't updated it for this year. So last year, but still kind of this year, sort of. So a lot of changes. A lot of old favorites are no longer to be seen. A lot of new faces have come up, and I think you'll get a good sense for where I'm at right now. Let's kick it off here. 2023, number 10, Monster Hunter the series. No longer just Freedom Unite. Now, we played a lot of Monster Hunter in the interim. We played Monster Hunter World. We played Monster Hunter Rise. We played, all the Monster Hunters. We are a Monster Hunter family for sure. And so we did all the Monster Hunters, but it's number 10 right now. Number 9, Helldivers. Still love that. Actually just played it last week. Number 8, Mad Max is a kind of a contender out of nowhere. I love the Mad Max series, post-apocalyptic, all that. It was really seminal for a reason. And the Mad Max game from Avalanche is actually fucking awesome. I thought it was so great. One of my favorite open worlds, being out there in Max's car, being able to upgrade it, being able to go wherever you want, having that car combat, just driving around just like in the movies. The fucking weather effects are fucking unreal in that game. The sandstorms that come through, it's just like they're jaw-dropping. They're so fantastic. And all of the bases, even though like when you look at them, when you go to take over an enemy base, at first glance, they all seem the same, but when you get into them, every single one is handcrafted and different. They all take place in various locations. Some are like up on a cliff, some are in a cave, some are in an abandoned bus, some are like in on a mesa or like whatever. Like every single base is different, and so each one feels like a unique experience. Kind of building your car, going back, gathering resources, doing supply runs, fighting off enemy convoys. Like, it's fucking incredible. I fucking love Mad Max. I love that game so much. It's easily one of my favorite open world games of all time, and certainly earns a place as number 8 on my my top 10 here of all time. Number 7, Death Stranding. Death fucking Stranding. A lot of lead up to this one before it dropped. A second appearance for Hideo Kojima on my top 10. I definitely connect with some of his games mechanically, if not thematically. And Death Stranding is just, I don't know what it is, man. I don't know if it's because I'm a little bit older now, I'm in a different phase of life, or I just get something different out of it. But just like putting a box on your back and fucking hiking, walking across green terrain, something about that is so captivating and relaxing and magical and magnetic. I just can't stop. I think I've played through Death Stranding like 2.5 times. And I really want to go back and play it again because there's just something about loading up those boxes and just going out there. Like, the story is horse diarrhea. It's terrible. The story is fucking awful. As a writer and as an editor, I would give any amount of money to be able to take my red pen to Kojima's script and clean that whole thing up. And I guarantee you the story would be 10 times better by the time I was done with it. I swear to you, it would be. Like, so many easy things to fix, so many cuts to make. I would love that. Project of a lifetime. Probably not going to get that chance, which is fine. But just the gameplay. I'm talking about just the gameplay. The scenery, the music that kicks in when you're coming down off a big rise, just like negotiating the terrain, getting all the gear and stuff. Ah, fuck, dude, I love that game so much. Just playing that game. Do not like the story. Do not like the ghost shit either. I wish you could just turn the ghosts off and just enjoy the game. But like, oh, dude, just like the zip lines and up the hill and got my motorcycle and I got my little hover carts and stuff. Just everything about Death Stranding is so fucking good. One of the only games in my entire life that I've ever replayed, and to think that I'm even wanting to replay it a third time, for me, personally, is completely insane. I've never felt that way about a game before, and something about it is just so entrancing that I just can't stay away from it. I fucking love Death Stranding so much. Number 6, I'm sure this might surprise some people, but number 6 for me, Days Gone on PlayStation. That's right. From Ben's studio with Deke and Boozer as the main characters. Open world, zombie survival on a motorcycle with a guy who seems kind of like a dim redneck, but actually turns out to be quite a bit more. Days Gone is fucking amazing. I love that game. The writing and the characters is really what sells it, right? I mean, it's fun to drive around on a motorcycle, be able to cut your own path through the world, dodge zombies, and do all that stuff. I mean, that's great. I think the stealth gameplay is pretty good, like being able to craft stuff and just, like take over bases and everything. It's a lot of the typical open world stuff. But the thing that sells it are the characters. The characters do so good. Everybody is so well written in this game. And a lot of people didn't really give this game the time of day. I know that when it launched on PS4, it had a lot of performance problems, which is true. Sony pressured the studio into launching on PS4 when they really should have waited till PS5. And the fallout of that is what happened, right? Like, it didn't get a very good reception. It had a lot of problems. People kind of ignored it, which was a shame because I think the game's a masterpiece. But the relationship between Deke and Boozer is just fantastic. And they feel like real characters. They feel like characters that I would know. They feel like people I've met. And when they relate to the other people in the camps, I think that's fantastic. When you meet other people later on, like, I don't want to even give any spoilers, but when you meet these other people, I'm like, oh my God, amazing, fucking amazing. Like, from a writing perspective, so fucking good. And there's a few moments in the story where you're just like, what? Oh my God. Like, I just like jumping out of my chair. Can't believe what's going on. Like, it's so just fucking incredible. It's a lot longer than you think it is, but I think it earns every minute of its runtime, and it ends up in such a good place. Like, it just is a complete journey. Like, it's a full arc of these characters. They go from like these people that seem like just weird losers that you don't really care for too much, and by the end of it, you're like completely rooting for them. You're behind them 100%. You really want them to make it. It's just like a fantastic journey. I think Ben Studios did so good with Days Gone. I really want people to play it because, oh man, I can't think of any game that I've really bonded with the characters as much as those two. I think they really hit something special there, and the performances were just like also fucking good. Days Gone is like the best. Number 5 in 2023, Into the Breach. Into the Breach. Said it before, I'll say it again. I think it's about as close to being a perfect game as a human being can come. I do not think I have any criticisms of this game at all. I've tried to come up with one, and I can't really think of one. I am a person who does not have a problem coming up with criticism. You know this of me. So I love turn-based tactics. I love robots, kaiju, all that kind of stuff. And this has all of it. It has small, discrete, controlled levels. It has excellent turn-based tactics. It has cool robot units you can mix and match. They have interesting powers. They have great long-term strategy over the course of a campaign. It's also a roguelike, so you can go back and try again, but the roguelike has progression. I mean, it's everything. Into the Breach is like everything. I played this game from start to finish, unlocked 100%, got all the secret stuff unlocked, did everything, and I love it so much. I think it's like a perfect game. If you like turn-based tactics, I don't know anybody, not one person who calls themselves a turn-based tactics fan who does not love Into the Breach. It's like one of the all-timers. Absolute fucking all-timer. After Into the Breach, number 4 in 2023, Hitman, the series. Original co-host of the show, Corey, and I did an entire episode on every single game in the Hitman series. Played through everything that I know of, played the mobile game. I love Hitman. It's so good. I love the kind of Swiss watch architecture of each level, that you're there to kill people and assassinate them. But something that people don't know is that Hitman's really funny. Like, it's not very serious. It's not very dark. You do the goofiest executions sometimes, and some of the stuff is just really wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just really comical, especially if you like dark humor. So I laugh a lot, and you're supposed to. It's really funny. And just like planning out the missions, it feels great to like come up with a plan and track somebody down and take them out, and no one knows. You escape undetected. It's just a fantastic feeling. I really like how the developers have carried the legacy of the series forward. They went back and redid a lot of the earlier games to keep releasing content, to keep the whole thing alive as a new kind of like total package that anybody can jump into at any time and get like all the Hitman content, which is great. There's like all sorts of new stuff dropping. So if you really like Hitman, you can basically play something new from Hitman like every month and just never run out of it. So I think Hitman is great. I love just everything about it. Agent 47, dripping with cool, lots of like international locales, lots of international murders, lots of international laughs. I love Hitman. Is so good. Okay, so then number 3 of 2023, Darkest Dungeon. Number 2, Mass Effect series. Number 1, Witcher 3, The Wild Hunt. It jumped up a whole bunch of slots. So to be perfectly frank, I couldn't remember why I dropped it down to number 6, but I do understand why it's number 1. I mean, I kind of gushed over it a second ago, but fantastic characters, Geralt and Yennefer and Triss. And I am a Yennefer man, by the way, just in case anybody's wondering. I know there's kind of two camps. Yennefer, 100%. But just the story is so fucking epic. So many things that happen are so well written and mature and just really nuanced. And some of the best DLC ever. Hearts of Stone. I know a lot of people really like the other one, Blood and Wine. And Blood and Wine is fine. But Hearts of Stone, to me, was fucking incredible from a gameplay standpoint and from a design standpoint, from a concept standpoint. I'm not going to spoil anything, but what you do in Hearts of Stone, I don't think I've done in any other game ever. And it was just so well done. Everything about it was fantastic. I mean, the beginning, middle, end, all of it, especially the end, I thought was quite great. And I really appreciated that I was able to end it the way that I wanted to, which kind of put a nice cap on the whole thing. But Witcher 3 from start to finish is just like, it's one of the best games that's ever been out there, I think. I mean, I know some people have their issues with it, and that's fine. And everybody's got their own tastes, horses for courses, etc., etc. But for me, Witcher 3 is the right amount of adventure, the right amount of sex and romance, the right amount of action, the right amount of monsters, the right amount of darkness and light. I mean, just everything about it was just fantastic. So huge ups to Witcher 3. So I've given you my 3 top 10s over time, 2006, 2018, 2023. Hopefully that kind of gives you a little bit of the arc that I've been on and where I'm at right now. And I was grateful for the chance to kind of like remind myself about where I've come from and where I'm going. So thanks for asking that question. That was really cool. It's kind of a fun trip down memory lane there. John asked another question here. John says, I love a 7 out of 10 game, the kind that doesn't aim to be a classic, but just has a simple vision and does it well. Stuff like The Gunk, Wavetail, Fee. They're all a little bit jank, but a lot of fun. What are some fave 7 out of 10s for you? Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it's not hard to say, but I guess it's hard to define, because a lot of times what most people will think of as a 7 out of 10 for me ends up being like a 10 out of 10, because I don't really care about the jank or the graphics or the roughness or whatever, as long as the idea is good. Does it have energy? Does it have themes? Does it have a motive? Does it have a purpose? Does it have ideas? And so a lot of these things can like, if you were to put one of these games in front of me, I would say like objectively, and I know there's no such thing as a fully objective review. I'm not trying to say that, so don't come at me. But if I was to look at a game, I would be like, okay, this has problems. Collision's not great. Graphics are rough. Music clips in. Okay, it's like a 7 out of 10. But to me personally, it would be like a 10 out of 10 because I'm like, oh my God, the characters are so amazing. This idea was fucking awesome. I loved it. And so the games that I find most people think of as 7s out of 10s are like really a lot higher for me. But I will give you the games that I like that I think most people will consider 7 out of 10. So let's see. Lamplighters League, I think most people would put it in 7 out of 10 category. It was my game of the year last year. Loved it. Fucking fantastic game. Wonderful idea. Turn-based tactics in a kind of Indiana Jones setting. Themes like 1920s kind of thing, like Mystery of the World, Cthulhu stuff. Oh, dude, I fucking love that game so much. I fucking ate that up. Literally no crumbs left. Lamplighters League was great. The Black Book from a couple years ago, that was fucking incredible. It was so amazing. Learning about these Slavic folk tales that I really had no idea about. It was like educational, but it was also a really dark view into a kind of storytelling that we don't really get in the West very often. A lot of the things that I think would be too dark and too far for most Americans would happen in the Black Book. And it made perfect sense given the characters and the story and the setting. Oh man, I love the Black Book so much. It just like had great combat mechanics. It was kind of janky though. Like the combat was janky, kind of busted even, but what they did deliver, this huge spanning story of a witch in the Slavic countries going on this incredible journey. And oh my God, when they got to the end, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, for like an hour. Like I couldn't believe it. I kept thinking they weren't going to go there, and they went there. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to, oh, they went there again. And like, it just blew me the fuck away. The crazy, fucking crazy when you got there. I couldn't even tell you what it was because it wouldn't mean anything to you unless you played the game. But trust me when I say it blew my fucking socks off. And most people put that as like a 7, probably lower than that. But for me, it was like incredible, an incredible experience. Love it so much. Ravenous Devils came out a couple years ago. It's like a time management one, Sweeney Todd simulator. A lot of people put that in the 7 or below category, but for me, it was fantastic. I love the darkness of it, chopping up these people, making them pies, running your shop. At the same time, you're fending off a serial killer who's like loose in London. That's not you. It's just great stuff. I just really love the quirkiness of it, the weirdness of it, just really strange and out of left field. Mothman 1966. Visual novel with wild, like graphical style, like hypercolor, pixel art, really odd storytelling. They're creating their own little like universe, which I think is marvelous. Everything about it is great. You can play through them once in a really quick, short order time, like, I don't know, a couple hours or whatever, and just have a marvelous few moments with it. I think the Mothman 1966 series is fantastic. I think it's called Pixel Pulps, the whole series is. I think they've got 3 and a 4th one is coming out now. Those are really great, and those are kind of in the same category. Iron Brigade from Double Fine a couple years ago. I think it was originally called Trenched, and then they changed the name for some reason. But this was another kind of semi-janky 7 out of 10 where it was I want to say it was World War One. I feel like it was World War One themed. But you were in these giant mechs that were super old and clunky and like low tech. Like they ran on Steam and had these giant chonking legs and these mounted machine guns. And the cockpit where the guy was driving it kind of looked like a trench that you would dig in the ground. You could play it co-op. I played it with my son. I just had the best time. Like the themes were really fun. The mech designs were really fun. The setting was really different. And it just like, yeah, it had some issues, but like, man, we just had the best time playing that kind of a active tower defense sort of thing. And just really marvelous. I believe you can play it still on like Xbox or a PC. I believe it's still around. The last one I'll call out is I Am Alive, coming from Ubisoft a while ago. It had a really troubled development, went through a lot of revisions, but when it finally came out, it was basically The Last of Us before The Last of Us. Had climbings, it had some Prince of Persia, it had definitely some like survival, it had rescuing kid, it had some really grim dark stuff in it. Maybe not as dark as something like Last of Us Part 2, but it was definitely dark for sure. And I just really love this kind of bite-sized post-apocalyptic survival game. Not necessarily black and white, but like pretty stark visuals and an approach that few people had taken at the time. I mean, of course, it's kind of been utterly forgotten these days, but I still think it's worth a look back. And if you like anything along the lines of The Last of Us, it's certainly that same stuff, but before The Last of Us, which I thought was pretty incredible. All right, last question of the show comes from Dovetail over in the Gaming in the Wild forums. Dovetail, very cool person. Love chatting with them. Dovetail says, I know you have a passion for accessibility in games and American Sign Language. I would love to know how that started and what makes it a big passion point of yours, because I think it's really cool. All right, Dovetail, thank you for the question. I don't talk about it all the time, but I have mentioned it, at least a couple of times on the show before, if not more. But in my time when I am not editing GameCritics.com, when I am not recording So Video Games, I spent basically about 30 years being a freelance sign language interpreter, so American Sign Language here in America, working mostly on the West Coast. And I did all sorts of stuff. I've seen things, I've done things, I've met people, I've been places. Sign language interpreting can take you really far if you are the right kind of person and you like the work. And I was, and I did. And so I spent, 3 decades doing that. That's how I met my wife. She's an interpreter as well. And so that's part of it. I mean, I think even before that, so how did I even get into it? Well, my parents are deaf. I think I've mentioned that at least once or twice on the show before. But, so that was already kind of in my background, right? And then I became an interpreter, interpreted for 30 years. And I met so many people who were just, really, really formative to me. Like I liked being in that field where I could help make things accessible for people. I could help people get their doctor's appointments. I could help people attend their school play. I could help people get a job. I could help people, I don't know, talk to their family members or go to a funeral or order food at a restaurant or whatever. I mean, there's like anything that you would do in your normal life. There's been a time and a place when I've done that. I've done basically everything. And I teach ASL right now. I teach interpreting. And I challenge my students often to kind of like, hey, I bet you can't come up with a job that I haven't done because I really feel like I've done it all. And like no one has stumped me yet. So whatever the wildest thing you can think of is, I've probably done it already. And after going through 30 years of that, I just felt like I liked interpreting, but also I like video games. Video games has always been a passion of mine. Even before being an interpreter, I was an interpreter for 30 years, like games for 40 years. So games were here first. And I got tired of seeing people that I knew, people who were deaf, who wanted to play games, weren't able to play games because there was often no subtitles. There was no audio accessibility. You would play a shooter and there'd be no way to know that you were getting shot because there weren't visual indicators on the screen yet. You would want to play an RPG, but it was fully voiced and there was no subtitles. And so a person would not be able to partake in that story. Or that you'd be playing, I don't know, you'd be playing any number of games. It's maybe a little bit harder to imagine now, but there was a lot of stuff where there was just no audio accessibility. People weren't thinking about it. People weren't doing it. People weren't devoting the resources. And I saw a lot of my friends who were deaf were like, I don't really play games that much because I can't hear them. And it seemed weird to me at first, but then once I started looking into it and realizing how inaccessible they were, I was like, wow, well, this is really fucked up. Okay, so we got to do something about this. And I was in the unique position, right? Like I knew English. I knew sign language. I knew deaf people. I knew game developers. I knew game publishers. And I was kind of like in this, I was in this giant spider web, right? Like there's all these little webs going out to these different communities, different aspects of people out there. But I was kind of in the middle. And I figured, well, I'm seeing all sides of this and I'm talking to people on all sides of it. I feel like I should probably do something about this. And so I did. So at the time I was talking to folks at Game Critics. I think I was probably editor by then. And I was like, well, there's lots of deaf people out here who don't know if they buy a game, if it's accessible. And think about that, right? Think about if you're a deaf person and you want to go buy a game. We actually have more options now, even though I don't think it's by any means like great, but we have more options for getting your money back now. But back in the day, like it was like, if you bought from a place that didn't accept a return of a physical copy, like you were stuck with it. So lots of friends would like buy a game and be like, oh fuck, I can't play this because there's no subtitles. There was no way to know. There was no way to know whether something was accessible or not. So could you imagine like gambling 50, 60, 70 bucks on a game, hoping that you'd be able to play it? You get it home, you put it in, and then it's like, oh, no subtitles. I can't play this. I can't figure it out. How terrible, was that experience? I mean, it's not something I ever had to deal with, but I know a lot of people who did, and it really got to me. So we started adding subtitles at Game Critics because I wanted the people who I knew to have some kind of resource to be able to find out if it's accessible or not. I think even today, I think there's maybe like four websites that I know of anyway. And if I'm wrong, if there's more, please somebody tell me and correct me. I believe there's only 4 websites that I can think of that actually add accessibility information. It's like Us. It's like, can I play that? I think there's like the Deaf Gamer. I think that's what his name was. I don't even know if he's even doing it anymore. It was like one guy. And then there was like one other person who just like last year said they were going to start doing it. And honestly, I haven't followed up to see if they have been doing it. But like barely anybody does it, right? So I wanted to be a resource for deaf people to go to. And then once we started adding subtitle information, somebody on the staff was like, well, fuck, why don't we just do colorblind information too? And if people have physical disabilities, why don't we just do that too? And I'm like, well, okay, let's do it. And really it's as simple as that. Like I get a lot of pushback from people. And a lot of times when we tried to pitch this to other websites, I was a freelance writer for a while for games. I didn't do a lot of games writing freelance because it fucking sucked, but I did do it for a while. And I remember trying to pitch it to people, and they're like, yeah, well, we don't have enough time. We don't have enough room. And I'm like, what are you talking about? It's the internet. You've got infinite room. You've got infinite space. No one was interested. No one wanted to fucking do it. So I'm like, fine, I'll do it on my own goddamn website. So I did. And when people came to me with their requests, I said yes, because that's all it took. I mean, doing it takes literally no effort at all. And so I really look down on any website out there that doesn't really take the time to do it. It takes so little effort to do it. And, you know, once you get in the habit, it just becomes a thing. And we've done literally thousands of reviews with full accessibility information on them. It's no skin off our nose. It's no problem. It's not it's not a heavy lift. It's not costing us extra money. It's not costing us anything. It's just a thing that we do because we care about people. So that's really just all it's about. I mean, I just really want to help people, and I was uniquely qualified to help people. And I really just want to open the doors to something that I love, video games, to people that in the past really didn't have a way in. And so I just felt like doing something about it. I mean, and there's really the secret, right? Like, if you want to do something, just do it. Like, really just go out and do it. There's not really anything stopping you. And I think that's really true for a lot of things. I mean, yeah, if you want to be president or something, maybe that would be a little difficult. But, you know, there's so many things that are within our control every single day that if we simply said something or did something or took some action or took it upon ourselves or did just one little extra bit of work, it would be so great. And you could accomplish so much. Like, I really feel like if you put your mind to something, you really can do so much. Maybe not everything, but you can do way more than you think you can. And just being proactive like that is something that I wish more people would do. So there's that. And that kind of continues on with what I'm doing right now. I mean, I'm teaching people to become interpreters. I'm helping certify interpreters. I'm trying to get more interpreters in the field because there's an interpreter shortage here in America. We don't have nearly enough because it's a really hard job and not everybody's suited for it. And so I'm trying to do my best to expand the ranks. And so I do a lot of that in my off time. I'm also working with a couple of pretty big companies right now to try to get some accessibility going. I'm adding interpreters to videos. I'm adding interpreters to, well, I can't talk about these projects, but I got a couple big irons in the fire right now that I'm kind of working on just to open those doors to people. Because why not? Why the fuck not? Why would you not want to do that for somebody? I care about accessibility. I want other people to care about it because it's just about people. Why do you not care about people? I care about people. I feel like if there's something I can do to make somebody's life better, I'm going to fucking do it. God damn it. And I do. That's it. There you go. Hopefully that answer will satisfy you, Dovetail. I really appreciate you asking. And thanks to everybody who sent in questions. This has been a really fun show to do, and I really appreciate the break. You know, you're on the content mill doing a podcast and running a website and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's kind of precarious when you take a day or two off because you get off schedule and everything falls behind. You got to catch back up and everything. So taking this week and being able to put games aside for a minute and just answer questions and kind of give myself some breathing room was really welcome. So thank you to everybody who gave me this chance, and we will get back on that horse next week for sure, as I promised earlier. So, all right, this is the part of the show where I kind of wrap things up and we move on to TV and movies and stuff. And I got a bunch of movies and stuff, but man, I'll just do a couple quick ones, then we'll bounce. Let's see. I saw A Quiet Place day one. Unnecessary. It didn't really bring anything new to the table. I didn't think it was particularly well told. I didn't think it was very interesting or exciting. I think A Quiet Place number one is really the best one. I'm sure that I saw A Quiet Place part two, but I honestly couldn't tell you a thing about it. And number three just felt like totally just like, we're here to collect a check. It doesn't really do anything. So that was kind of a bummer. I watched The Black Phone. I know this one was pretty popular a little while ago. I just now got around to it. And I got to say, it did hold up. It was good. It's a horror movie. And I don't usually like to watch any horror movies with kids in them because that just is not my thing. It's not something I'm comfortable with. It makes me very, very uncomfortable. But I heard good things about this one. It stars Ethan Hawke as the bad guy. And the basic premise is this guy is kidnapping kids and he's killing them. And the very last kid that he kills ends up getting help from the other kids that he's killed. Their ghosts come back to help this last kid survive. That's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer, so I'm not giving anything away. But basically, I thought the idea of these other ghost kids helping this one kid escape was a cool premise. It was a good movie. Pretty tense. The opening scene, the music made me wet myself, dude. It was so scary. I was like, oh my God, this music is freaking me the fuck out. I look at my wife. She's freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, this music, what the hell? It was just like Silent Hill times 10. And we started to think maybe we made a mistake by watching this movie. But after we got past the opening music, and literally it was just the music, it was like, okay, it calmed down. And like, it was a horror movie, but it was not out of control. So Black Phone, I think, was very good. Last one I want to give a shout out to is Gem and the Holograms. Not a horror movie, but a kind of a revisiting, reimagining of the 1980s cartoon, which I love, is very near and dear to my heart. Love Gem and the Holograms. Loved it back then. I love it now. I just watched the entire series with my wife like a couple months ago. Have the shirts. I have the dolls. I love Gem. I have the posters. I'm a fan. But I've never seen this movie. And so we just watched it on a whim. I was very curious. And it was okay. It could have been a disaster, right? Like, it could have been awful, because how do you translate a cartoon from the 80s into a modern day movie? But it was actually pretty good. I liked a lot of the changes they made. A lot of the things, the reimaginings were good. Some of the nods were good. But I don't think it was the movie that it could have been. There were a couple pretty big holes in the script that I think needed some work. And the biggest bummer was they didn't have the rights to any of the original music, like not even the theme song. So I kept waiting for like some of the original songs to kick in. Like, none of them kicked in, which was a huge bummer. Oh my God, I couldn't believe they didn't get any of the songs. But there were lots of cameos from the original people. They had the writer of Gem made a cameo. Gem's original voice made a cameo. A couple of Gem's biggest fans, who are some famous people, made cameos. So that was kind of fun. And I think overall it was good. It was like a real girl power, forward-thinking message about social media and about who we are, personal identity, and all of those things I think were good. They could have been polished up, but it was good. And I think it probably means a lot more if you're a fan of the original material. But it was not the clusterfuck it could have been, although from what I read, it was an unmitigated disaster at the box office. I think it cost $5 million to make, which is like nothing. But it only made back like $2 million, so it lost $3 million, which is kind of a bummer. So we're not going to see a sequel, which sucks, because there was a pretty cool twist at the very end that really like set up a sequel, which would have been very exciting. But 'twas not to be. But overall, it was definitely worth watching if you're a fan of Gem like I am. And if you're not, it's at least something to watch that's a pretty positive message for girls, which I think we all need in this day and age. So there you go, folks. That is a show. Before the closing music, I would love for you to leave a review, share the show on social media, and most important of all, please recommend So Videogames to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And if you want to support the show and help with the cost of writing the podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Videogames Podcast. And if you want to join our Discord, that is free of charge. And as always, I want to get your questions and comments like I did for this show. Hit me up in the SVG Discord or email me directly, sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or you can also reach me on social media. Find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. It's my name, BRADGALLAWAY, all A's, no O's. And that's going to do it for episode 405. Thanks again for joining me here on the So Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week with a regular show.